nasty.
Hey guys, today we're going to be looking into what's required to translate sounds and sound compositions like music, bring them into the visual format, and what the kind of things are involved in doing that. Now what you're looking at here is the pre-production of my animated short piece that you saw at the beginning, this experimental animation. So this is like before I've even made any of the animation, and I'm just planning out. I've listened to the sounds a lot, I've listened to the music, and now I'm making annotations based on that and trying to think of as many different variables as I can involved in the sounds of music. So you can see here I've got speed, movement, color, complexity, texture, the shapes that I might be using, and seeing what kind of characteristics the sound has. Now there's two ways you can go about making visuals to music. You can do it quite literally, where you try and be as literal as possible and just describe the music in visual format, or you can take some creative license and try and come up with some imaginative things based on imagery that you know and you like and you want to use. So in this one I try to establish sort of a middle ground, but I'm more trying to go closer to the literal sense, so literally translating music. I've done a lot of other videos where I've done the opposite of that, and I've been creating music videos out of imagery and imagination, and the music is just kind of that inspirational spark at the start. Generally the more abstract interpretations of music are ones which don't take on the look of objects or people or things that we know we can see. They're more just like abstract shapes and sparks and things like that. What you can see me doing here is I'm just listening to the music piece, the clip that I chose, that I picked out. I'm listening to that on repeat, and as I'm doing so I am sketching out basically what I would be sketching out in my sketchbook for some pre-production. And so by the end of it I've got several pages of pre-production work where I've really considered all the different possible things that I can do with these sounds and how I can like translate them and stuff. So other things are things like size of what the object is going to be like and where it's going to be on the canvas, and you're trying to think about textures and things like this, the texture of a sound. So in this one here that you can see, I'm creating the textures, and I've just gone and looked on the internet for a bunch of different textures. This sound that I had, it was electronic and it sounded very kind of artificial, so I thought that like things like carbon fiber were a good match for that. So I was looking at carbon fiber, I was thinking of the matrix and distortions created by computer malfunctions, lots of sparks and energy, raw energy. Also the song has other variables like the pacing and stuff, and there's lots of one reason that I chose this part is because there's lots of dynamics, there's lots of ups and downs involved in it. So I liked the fact that there were places where there was just big open spaces where there were no real instruments, and then loads of kind of intensity all at once. So yeah, I was thinking about these things. So I know that this is specifically geared towards music and the pre-production involved with music, but if it was a different animation, if it was a narrative kind of animation, I would be doing a similar thing. I'd be making pre-production work a little bit like this, but it might be more to do with character designs or layout designs, so the landscapes and stuff. If you looked at my previous short film Wildfur, I did a similar thing for pre-production, so that tends to be what I do with this. I like to fill up pages of sketchbooks beforehand. Another part of making this short music video was that I wanted to make sure that it wasn't bound to the kind of strokes that I could get with a flash brush, because that's quite a small amount of brushes, and the initial plan was to actually animate the stuff in Flash first, and then bring in a lot more textures and strokes and stuff from Photoshop and Krita, so some interesting textures to make it a little bit less like a Flash cartoon. But in the end I ended up running out of time. I had a deadline for this because it was part of my university research, so I didn't end up doing that as much as I'd liked, and that's something that I regret. But you can see here that in the pre-production I was planning all these different shapes and strokes and stuff. So if I had to give advice for someone who wants to do this kind of animation where it kind of describes the music in a way, I would suggest first of all to listen to the sound an awful lot before you go into it. Listen to it multiple times. I must have listened to it maybe 100 times before I even started animating. So I'd say listen to it a lot, and then listen to try and break it down in layers. So listen to the different parts of it, the different instruments. If you think about, you know, a music piece, when it's laid out in its layers, when they're mixing and mastering it, there's all these different layers to it, and you need to kind of break them down in your head and consider different qualities to it. So what is the volume? So that's an easy one, the volume. Then you've got, what's the pitch? What is the pitch doing? And how can you describe that? What kind of color do you imagine it to have? You know, if sound had a color, what kind of color would it be? Some of these things are quite tricky for some people. Some people find this hard to grasp, and others find it really easy to grasp. One of the inspirations for this was a very, very good animator called Michel Gagne, and he's made a few animations that are in this style of just translating the sounds. One of the most notable ones is called Sensology. I'll put up a preview of that animation right now so you can see it. It's really good, and it does a great job in describing the sounds that you can hear. And so I tried to do a similar thing to that and to test myself and see if I could do that. So that's another thing I'd recommend you do, is you go and watch a lot of his animations and then take notes and say, oh, I see what he's done there. The pitch was continually going up, so he was making all the notes ascend, you know, and things like that. You notice these things and then you can apply them to your own. To get the various brushes with the really interesting textures, I mostly just bought them from various different sites. I think these ones were mostly from Steambot Studios, the analog brush pack. But yeah, I just buy a lot of brushes in Photoshop, and most of them I don't use, but occasionally I will like to use one of these because they add something different to the animation. Now that I've done everything that I wanted to with the pre-production, I've now gone into Flash. I've put the sound clip down in one of the layers, and I'm going to be planning the animatic. So what the animatic is it's just a series of drawings which will describe the animation, but then afterwards you go in more detail and you actually bring those pictures to life with animation. So right now it's just a very, very simplified version, and it just captures some of my ideas of what I'm going to be doing. You see the swirling movement at the start here. That all started with this drawing that I'm doing here. I'd say that the skill to be able to translate music in this way, or sounds, it's very valuable if you're an animator, because as an animator, one of the main sources of work seems to be music videos right now. I get contacted a lot by music groups who want music videos, so this is a skill that can really help in that domain. Give it a go. You can do a short clip like this, maybe 10 seconds or less, and see what you can do, and then you can add them to your show reel or something. Yeah, they're good fun as well, and they are good practice for if you in the future want to make a music video. They're also very useful if you want to get more abstract imagery. You can pull that from the music. Also, it's good if you're in a creative block because the music acts as like, it's kind of like food for thought, you know, so it helps you get unstuck with your ideas. The source files for this animation that you've seen at the start, they are going to be available to buy on my website, animatorguild.com/store.html. I will leave the link in the description and up on the screen here. It's a very affordable price, and for it you get to download the source files and see exactly how I put together this animation, the different layers I've used, the symbols, how I've synced it with the music, and you're going to get a few tutorials to go along with that, a few demos, a few walkthroughs to guide you through the source file so you get a really intimate knowledge of how I created these animations. And so if you are interested in learning more about this, I recommend you go over there and you check it out. So yeah, with that said, I thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to showing you the next video that I'm bringing out. If you want to be notified when it gets released, please subscribe to the channel. I bring out a new video every Friday. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.